audience member is this. The scenario is my child has ASD and is not receiving support and is having meltdowns, and then is then suspended for behavior related to the child's disability. What rights does the child have? How does the parent appeal a suspension like that?
So the issue is not about the suspension, it's about what is the cause of the activity that's occurred. So in that sense, if something is occurring it probably means that it's not being adequately dealt with by the school. It leads to suspension. I mean, there's a whole lot of suspensions. It's the sort of extreme end of that, of the various options to manage those sorts of activities. So, if the school's not dealing with the problem appropriately, then that can be a basis for a discrimination complaint. And in a lot of the complaints that we receive, kids have been suspended. Part of a conciliation agreement can be the removal of suspensions from a child's record. So if it's understood or accepted by the school or the department that that's part of the resolution. It's probably a hard thing to get as part of the conciliation agreement. It's not impossible, I've seen it happen, but it's hard to get because the department will sort of, or the school will say, well, these things occurred, this was an action that's taken. It's a bit hard to rewrite history. But if you have a suspension policy that says that, if a kid's been suspended for X number of occasions, then there's a more severe penalty. Sometimes what you can do is you don't get the suspension removed from the record, but you get noted on the record that this suspension will not count in that list of 5 or whatever it might be. So there's various ways to work around that. But I mean, the answer to the broad answer to your question is yes. The suspension can constitute less favourable treatment if it's administered in the sort of circumstances that we've talked about.
And are they allowed to suspend due to meltdowns?
Ultimately, a school is allowed to suspend any student. It's more about the consequences that flow from that suspension. I mean, while your child is at school, the school authorities have to have the capacity to deal with the safety of your child and of other children at the school, and suspension has to be you can't get an exemption from suspensions on the basis of disability. What you can do though is, if the suspension policy is being inappropriately administered, or if other strategies aren't utilised prior to suspension occurring, then that can be a basis for discrimination. But I don't think the law goes so far as to say that if a child is suspended because of their disability, that suspension doesn't apply.
So can you ask for certain behaviour things be put in place, like them to utilise all these different strategies before it comes to a suspension?
Yes, you can.
Okay.